Hi, and welcome back to my channel. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk everything about base and foundation. So as you can see, I'm not wearing any highlighter, blush, or bronzer. I'm just wearing my foundation right now. And I'm gonna talk you through how I get a natural looking base using various different products and how I achieve my everyday foundation. So if this interests you, then just keep on watching. So these are going to be tips where if you want to be full glam and go all out with your makeup and maybe a night out to day to day when you want just like a light coverage or maybe even a weekend. And so I'm going to walk you through my best tips for the best base. There are only a few things that you need, and first we're just going to talk through some products and then I will start putting things on my face. And so one of my first tips when applying base products is to really take your time. And so I know we don't always have the time to put hours into our makeup, and sometimes we just got to get out the door, especially in the morning before work. But the more time you put into your base, the more natural it looks, the more time that the products have to sink into the skin. They can become one with the skin and warm up. And overall, you're going to just get a better look, and you're not going to get that cakey foundation looking thing. Let's talk about foundation. Now, I do really like, for a full coverage, I like the Milani Conceal and Perfect. I don't think they have the best shade range ever, but if I'm going to do a full coverage look, I think that this is totally awesome. It's super thick. See, it's almost like a paste. It's so thick and it goes on really well, and it does blend out quite nicely. And so with my best advice for a full coverage or for any foundation is to build it up. And if you get a foundation that you find that doesn't build, I think that's a sign that that foundation isn't that great. And so that's what I look for in all of these products. And this is the shade 00 because I'm so pale. I can really sheer out this product and it looks fantastic, and it can be a really light base, but I can also build it up on the areas where I need coverage. And that's really important to me. And when we get into the application, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. So that is... Now, on the other hand, I have the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. This is my next step down in terms of coverage. So I really like this. This is the shade Light, which is actually a little dark for me. I'm probably closer to the shade Fair right now because I don't have a tan. And so you've seen me do this before in videos. I actually mix some of the Ordinary Serum Foundation in 1.1, which is way too light for me, with this. And since this doesn't have any texture because it's like a serum, it mixes really well and doesn't mess with the formula of the CC cream. So this formula is really fantastic for every day. It shears out really well, and it does build really, really well if you want to build it up. And so this one is also really thick, and just pump out a little bit. It's a lot darker than the other one, you can see, but it's not nearly as thick. And so I find that this one, because it's not as thick, it shears out a lot better, and it also gives you a lot more of a glow. You can even see right there. It's a lot more liquidy. And then the lightest coverage foundation that I have to recommend for you is the Glossier Skin Tint. And a lot of people talk about this. This is in medium, and it's the Perfecting Skin Tint. And you shake it up, and it's super, super liquidy. This one's almost out, and it comes out in this little dropper. And it doesn't come out quickly, which I actually really like. It kind of takes a little bit, and it's probably the thinnest out of all of these and the sheerest out of all of these. It just disappears. It never quite dries down, so it's very glowy. It keeps me hydrated. It doesn't cling to dry patches, and it's really not there. Like, it is your ultimate not there foundation when you just want a little bit of evening. And so I have rosacea and I have acne. And so most people would be shocked at how much I like this, but I'm not self-conscious about my acne. I've been dealing with it all my life, and sometimes I have great skin days and sometimes I don't. And so, allowing my skin to breathe but still feeling confident and comfortable, I think that that's what this allows. Hopefully, if you see me putting on my base in any of these videos, I'll probably be using any of these products. You can come back to this video and see the full explanation of each of these products and what I do to get my base. There's a couple of ways that I like to apply foundation. Either just with my fingers, which works really well, or I like to use a beauty blender. Now, I also really like the Real Techniques sponge, but I find that the beauty blenders last a lot longer, and so even though the Real Techniques is cheaper, I think I go through them faster and they rip, or I can't get them as clean. So I have the beauty blender or the Real Techniques sponge. I haven't tried the EcoTools one, but I really want to. So I really like to apply foundation with either of those. And then I also really like this brush from Real Techniques. It's the Instapop face brush, and it's pretty dense, but as you can see, it has this slant. And I just find that it's really great for buffing and like bouncing on the face. It's like, it bends well, but it's still really dense, so you don't get any streaky or brush strokes or anything like that. And I think it works really great over areas like the chin for pressing in the product. Today I'm going to show you my favorite, which is the beauty blender, and I'm not going to use a brush, but you will see me use a brush in other videos. I go back and forth between using those. And so the first things first, I'm going to dampen this because that is the most important part. It makes it soak up less product, but also apply product a little bit more evenly. Okay, so I'm going to go and dampen this, and you will see that it gets a lot bigger. Go. Now it has a lot bigger. I find that it's like a lot more bouncy now, and it is just a little bit dampened. So I'm gonna push my hair out of my face. I might even put it up so that you can see. Get nice and close. I think today what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Milani Conceal and Perfect because I want to show how a really high coverage foundation can also really sheer out. What I like to do is I take a little bit on the back of my hand and I dot it on my face. Now, I know on YouTube a lot of the time, and I'm definitely guilty of this, we see people put foundation all over their face. They dot everywhere all over their face, and then they blend it out and they get this beautiful looking base on camera. In person, it doesn't always look like that. If you're using a full coverage foundation, sometimes it can look not like skin and it looks like foundation sitting on your skin. And so what I want to show you today is a more minimal way of applying foundation. I put foundation where I need it, and if it matches your skin really well, then it makes it look like skin. So the color match is really important, and also only putting it where you need it. Those girls on YouTube that have this like perfect flawless skin, they're like, oh, I only put foundation like here and here and then I'm good. And you're just like looking at it like, sure. Like, you do you, girl, I'm gonna cake my face. Totally fine if you want to do that. But what I've found is that if I cake my face, first of all, I break out more. And then second of all, I actually think it looks worse on my skin because you can really see that I'm wearing it. So enough blabbing. What I like to do is take it on some blemishes here and here. My cheek right here, because sometimes it makes, my rosacea makes me look like I'm blushing all the time. My nose gets really red too, right there. And then right here. And so then I take my beauty blender and I'm just going to bounce it and really take my time. So this foundation is really high coverage, but I haven't even used half of what I pumped out yet. Like, I've really only used a tiny bit, and I would probably do the same thing with the skin tint. It really doesn't matter how much coverage I'm using. I would do this with any sort of foundation. Just pouncing it into the skin in the places I need it most, and then after I've done that, I'll start to bring it out to the other parts of my face and blend it in with the rest of my skin. And so if I'm doing an everyday makeup sort of thing, this is where I'll leave it. So I probably used a quarter of a pump of foundation. That's what's kind of annoying about this foundation. A lot comes out at once. I've used a quarter of a pump of this foundation, and I've only used it around the center of my face and a little bit on my forehead. And I think that my skin looks a lot better. You can still see my breakouts. They're pretty gnarly, so you're gonna be able to see them no matter what. But my skin looks a lot more even. It looks a little bit healthier. And it still looks like my skin. And you don't need a lot. And I think that that is the biggest misconception with especially a full coverage foundation or foundations in general, is that we tend to think that we need as much as comes out on the pump, but we don't. So for under my eyes, for color correcting, I really like the Maybelline Age Rewind Eraser Dark Circles treatment. And so this is a peachy light color. And the other one that's a lot talked about is the Glossier Stretch Concealer. This is a brand spanking new one. Hey there. And so the Glossier Stretch Concealer is really, really awesome. It's super light, very glowy, definitely needs to be set with something. But it's not stiff, it's not dry. I always think of these pot concealers, because they're hard concealers and they're not liquid like these, as being really dry, but this is so nice and so glowy and so dewy and really brightening. This is the Fit Me concealer, and this concealer is a lot like the Glossier Stretch Concealer, but a little bit more high coverage, and is a lot better for areas on your face that you want to conceal. So this is the Glossier one, and as you can see, it almost just looks like my skin. This is the Fit Me, and then this light one. Sorry, I have lipstick here that stained my hand. And then this one here is the Maybelline Age Rewind. And so that's the three of them. So the lightest one is the Maybelline Age Rewind, and that's the one we're actually going to use first. One of the techniques that I have is derived from some very, very minimal art background that I have, is that when you're highlighting, you want to bring something forward. And dark circles and bags under the eyes it's like a sunken in, so you want to bring them forward and you want to brighten them. And so the places that I want to brighten are the places that are the darkest. And so wherever I see this darkness is really the only place I want to cover. So I don't need, right here under my eye is not that dark. Here is dark and here is dark. And so with a color corrector like the Maybelline Age Rewind, I'm going to really only try and put it on the places that I want to bring forward the most. Rather than covering, I'm brightening, I'm correcting. And so it's a little bit different of a process. I'm just going to put it on these dark areas that I have right here that, like I said, kind of sometimes mess with my eye makeup. And then right in this corner. And so I really haven't brought it down any lower than where I absolutely need it. So it's really only in this area and then my inner corner, and I didn't put any here, I didn't put any here, I did not make that triangle. I'm gonna use the Fit Me. This one's a little bit more full coverage, so I wanna kind of show how I do this without doing the really big triangles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and dot it along below here. And so the reason why I do that is because I think this is the best way to take a pretty full coverage concealer and to not get creasing. And so then I'm going to take my Beauty Blender and I'm going to blend that in. And I'm bouncing very lightly, but I'm doing it a lot. And once I don't have as much product, then I'm going to start to bring it up and blend it toward my eye a lot more. So the majority of the product that I put on to conceal went not here, but here. Okay, so it's like a half an inch lower than what you might think. And then I took it to highlight up, and I also took it down a little bit in that triangle form, but instead of drawing it out using the concealer, I used the Beauty Blender to make that shape. And so, if like me, you have pretty big under eye circles that you really want to conceal, what you can do now is you can go back in with the color corrector if you would like, or with the concealer in really just the darkest areas. So right here, because I didn't sleep very well last night, right here is where I am still the darkest. And so I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna try and dot this here. And sometimes concealing to the high heavens doesn't even help, much like those pimples. As for the rest of my face in terms of concealer, I will typically take something like this and I will pinpoint conceal. You probably know Desi Perkins, and she is like my idol. Oh my God, I love her so much. But she does a really good video on concealing breakouts. And so I would definitely recommend that you watch that because it's where I got a lot of my tips for this. And I think that she goes through the process really well. So I'm going to link that. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to take my concealer brush and take a little bit and I'm going to really just dot that onto those blemishes. And then sometimes I like to take my finger and then the brush and then my finger. And these are like, these are really bad cystic pimples that have a lot of, I don't know, texture to them. So they're a lot harder to conceal. But I'm totally okay with that. Like, that doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really bother me that much. But Desi's video goes into a lot of how to conceal those. So the last step that I have for you is powder. Much like foundation, I only put powder on my face where I need it. The first powder that I really love is the MAC Studio Fix foundation, powder foundation. And this is an NC20. It's super smooth, like really almost undetectable, really mattifying. And so this is a great oily skin powder. The less coverage is the Wet n Wild Press Powder. And this is the shade Warm Light. And some people say that this is a dupe for the Hourglass one, but I'll talk about that in a second. This one is a lot more sheer and still just as smooth. And honestly, just even running my finger over it, I like can't even feel it. It's so undetectable. The Hourglass Ambient Light and Luminous Light, which is the one I have, which is the slightly more pinky one. But this one gives you a lot more glow. I love this one for under the eyes. I think it's wonderful. What I like to do sometimes is take my Beauty Blender in the powder and just put a little bit only on top. And this is the MAC powder, only on top of those. For the hourglass one, I really like to take a fluffy brush, like this e.l.f. Total Face brush. I like to put this on top of the eyes, around the nose, and the forehead. And sometimes I'll put it like all over the face. I don't know, because it's so light. But if I were to use the MAC, I wouldn't do that. I would really only put it on the places that I need it. Let me take my hair down. These have been my tips and tricks. The next video that I'm going to talk about is some highlight, blush, and contour. And I'm thinking about doing a powder video and a cream video. So let me know what you think about that. Also, let me know what you thought about this video. Did you like this? Did you like having some background into what I like to do for my base? Did you learn anything? Totally let me know in the comments down below. And I love hearing thoughts of what people think. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.